Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hain Education, where we explore the knowledge of biology. So, have you ever wondered what some things make alive? It can be a tree, or it can be a bird, or it can be even yourself watching this video right now. So, in this video, we will be studying 7 characteristics of living things, also known as MRS GREN. So by the end of this video, you will get to know how these characteristics connect living things so well, and hopefully you get something more about yourself as well. So this is about characteristics of living things. So from this first slide, so you can see the two different animation, and it is very obvious that one picture is a living things and another picture is non-living thing. But how do we differentiate this, whether this is a living thing and whether that's a non-living thing? So from this lecture video, you will get to learn the characteristics of living thing that all living things should have aligned. How can we differentiate between living and non-living thing? Starting off with the first one, which is the movement. So the very obvious thing would be the movement. So in terms of definition, movement is an action by an organism causing a change of positions of place. So from this statement, you can see that it will be changing of position of place. So you may have a questions. Wait, hold on, Hein. Even a car or an aeroplane can move, but why don't we consider them a living thing? So I have an explanation for that. For the living, it's mean changing of position or place by ourselves, by themselves. So imagine, right, you want to go grab a cup of water, then you can move by yourself and you can go grab a glass of water. But for a car or for an aeroplane, they cannot move on their own. So this would be the one of the distinct characteristic that we share between living. So living organisms or living things, they can have an action by an organism which cause a change of position or place. So this would be the very first characteristics of living things, which is movement. And moving on to second characteristic, which is respiration. So in terms of respiration, there are three different terms that sometimes student can miss the concept. So which is breathing, respiration, and gas exchange. So we get three different terms that sometimes student can get confused. So we have breathing, gas exchange, and the concept of respiration. Yes, these three, they are connected to each other, but actually they have a different definition. So breathing, which is just we breathe in and breathe out, which happen at our nostril or at our nose. For the gas exchange, it would happen in the alveoli of our lungs where the carbon dioxide and oxygen exchange. But for the respiration, it's happened in the cells. So it's also known as cellular respiration. And in the later future video, you can also see that respiration can be divided into two forms, which call as aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So in simple way that we can memorize is aerobic respiration mean with oxygen and aerobic mean without oxygen. So here is a definite here is an equation. So glucose plus oxygen, which results in carbon dioxide, water, as well as energy. So from the respiration, the main thing that we want is energy. So that energy can be used in the other processes that happen in our body, such as active transport, cell division, neurons, and everything. So respiration is the chemicals reactions in cells. So it is a chemicals reactions in cells. So specifically in cell, the aerobic respirations take place in the mitochondria. So which break down the nutrients molecules to release energy. So nutrients molecules in this case, we are meaning that it's glucose. So in a simple way that in our cells or in the mitochondria, the nutrients molecules, glucose is broken down by oxygen and released energy. Released energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate or ATP. So this is the another characteristics where all living things share the ability to respire, or in other words, its ability to release or produce energy. So we got second concept or second characteristic. First, movement. Second, respiration. Moving on to third characteristics, which is the sensitivity. So in terms of sensitivity, again, you may even have a questions that sometime like a computer, sometime a phone, sometime your tablet, even a car, they may have a signal telling us that your battery, your phone battery is lower than 20%, your tablet battery is lower than 10%. So that can be considered as they are sending or they have a some form of sensitivity letting us know that your phone battery is lower than 20%. But the thing that make living and non-living distinct is that living things can respond to that by ourselves. For example, imagine you see one ball flying towards you, so you may have a response to that by moving away, by moving your head away from the flying ball. But for your phone or for your car, they cannot go charge by themselves to the charging station, or they cannot go plug in by themselves. So that is the distance between the living and non-living things. So sensitivity, it have two main parts. So it's the ability to detect and also respond to the changes in the environment. So not only detecting, but also they may be able to respond. So from the diagram given provided below, you can see that the plant is growing towards the light. So the first part, the ability to detect is like plants can detect where the light source is, and then it can respond by growing towards the light. So that is how the thing that make difference between the livings and non-living. So we can start off with like the plants or the living things. They have ability to detect. So let's say the changes in the environment, which can be considered as stimuli or stimulus, which is the changes in the environment. So which will be detected by our receptor. So our receptor can be eyes, ears, nose, skin. So those are the receptor that detect our that they can detect the stimuli, and they will send it to the brain. So for now, we can just we can say as coordination, so which involve of the sensory neuron, relay neuron, and motor neuron. After that coordination, they will send this message to the effector. So in our body, there are two types of effectors, muscles and glands. So basically, muscles, they respond by contracting, and gland, they respond by secreting. So that will also be in the nervous system, or which is about coordination lectures as well. And from that effector, they will give the response. So from the plants provided, so you can see that this light can be the stimulus, and then the plants know where the light is coming from. And then they will respond by growing towards that light. So that is the response. So the example that I gave previously about the phone and the car and tablet and computer, whatever about non-living thing, they have the ability to detect. It's like, oh my God, the phone battery is lower than 20. The tablet battery is lower than 10%. So that is the detecting point where the system know that there is a system telling or informing us that, but they cannot do the response by themselves. So that would be the characteristic that make us living and non-living apart. So there are three characteristics right now: movement, respiration, and sensitivity. So another very obvious thing is about growth. So imagine you adopt a kitten, and then that kitten will grow, right? So it will get into a cat. Even a puppy, it will get into a dog. But imagine you have a phone, you have a book, you have a shoe, you have a water bottle, but over the time, they didn't get larger or they didn't get bigger. So in terms of definition for the growth, it's a permanent increase in size. So basically mean that it will increase in the numbers of cells as well, right? So a permanent increase in size, it's not only for plants, it's also for the animals, right? The sites get bigger and bigger. So this is a very good distant point about the livings and non-living, where we living can grow gradually, but for the non-living, they will not grow in the size and also in the in terms of like number. So this would be the fourth characteristics of living things. And another obvious thing is also about reproduction, right? So imagine about your phone. You bought phone, they will not reproduce and they will not give you baby phones, right? But for a living things, they can reproduce and they can produce more of the same kind of offspring. So in terms of definition, it is the process that make more of the same kind of organism. So as you can see from this two diagram, one diagram showing you is about asexual. It's a type of reproduction, which is asexual reproduction. And this is the form of sexual reproduction. So again, this concept will also explore in depth in the future video as well. So now let's get back to the reproduction characteristics. So, right? So for the reproduction, it's making more of the same kind of organism. So the main reason for the reproduction is to prevent extinction. So we reproduced in order to prevent ourselves from extinct, right? So this would be the one of the characteristics that makes living thing apart from non-living thing, set apart from non-living thing. And then next one is about excretion. So for this, some students, they may confused about excretion and the egesting, right? So for the excretion is the removal of organism of toxic material. So we can say that removal of toxic material and substance in excess of requirement. So which means that we are removing the metabolic waste. Metabolic waste. So metabolic waste, very good example would be the carbon dioxide. So we breathe out or like we exhale carbon dioxide, which is in terms of removing the metabolic waste. So imagine about egesting. Egesting is not excretion because egesting is a removal of undigested food. It's not a waste product. So don't make a mistake in your exam about egesting and excretion. So excretion is removal of toxic material and substances in excess of requirement, but for the egesting is removal of undigested food from the digestive system. So this would be the another characteristics of uh, living things. So this is excretion. And we slowly proceeding towards the last characteristics of living thing, which is about nutrition. So nutrition is taking in of material. So basically, simply put it in a way that it means we are eating, we are consuming. So taking in of material for energy, growth, and development. So in terms of nutrition, we can further divide it into three types. So starting off with autotrophic nutrition. So autotrophic nutrition is basically they are the plants where they can use the sunlight directly and they produce food. So that would be the autotrophic. And for us, it is heterotrophic nutrition. So it can be animals, it can be me, it can be you. So heterotrophic nutrition where we consume other animals, other plants. And next one is we say the saprotrophic nutrition, or other words, it can be the parasitic nutrition as well. So this would be the type of three different types of nutrition: autotrophic, heterotrophic, and saprotrophic nutrition. So don't forget that these seven characteristics, they do not stand alone. They are interconnected. So as an example, right? So after I only eat or I only have nutrition, I can produce energy. Then only when I get energy, I can perform movement, I can do the excretion and everything. So it's mean like these all seven characteristics of living thing, they are interconnected together. They do not stand alone themselves. So a living thing must have this all seven characteristics of living thing. We cannot consider a thing that only have six or five or four of these characteristics. So remember that when we want to consider a thing a living, they must have all the seven characteristics of living things. So in terms of summary, so you can make it a simple way or make it easier way with the acronym. So MRS GREN. M is for movement, R is for respiration, S for sensitivity, G for growth, R for reproduction, E for excretion, and N for nutrition. So these are all the seven characteristics of living thing that you should be familiar while studying the biology journey. So in the following slide, I provided some multiple choice questions where you can spend some time to think of the answer and we can discuss if we want. So this would be the question number one: which process is carried out by all organisms? So it have to be all living things can perform. So have a good choice. And for the second questions, I think this is covered by my video. So let me move a bit to, so here is first questions again. So you can take a time, answer the questions and have a good choice, have a right choice. And this is the question number two. So yes, so hope you can choose the correct answers. And this is last questions, question number three. So which organisms carry out respiration, growth, movement, and excretion? And they give you four different choices. So yeah, so that is for today about the characteristics of living thing. And thank you so much for watching my video. And if you have any questions, you can contact me through my email or my Instagram account. And hope to see you in next video. So thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye bye all.